My husband said, make sure to thank Laura for the good mask that she gave me. Hi. Okay. We are going to get started. I want to start with one of my favorite stories. This is a mashal. Does anyone know what a mashal is? A parable, or what did you say? A sample? Example. Okay, a good example. Parable are stories. In the olden days, we used to use one story to explain a different concept. Like this was a mashal and a nimshal. Those are the Hebrew terms for a story that you could apply it to many different situations. Okay, so this is a mashal that I learned when I was a teenager that has stuck with me and carried me through many situations. Okay, so the story goes like this. 100 years ago, in a small town in the Ukraine, there was a poor man by the name of Fishel. I made that up. Okay, I'm making up some details, but the main story, this mashal, was said in the early 1900s by the Chafetz Chaim. So very wise man, one of the greatest men of his generation. Men. Okay, so Fishel. Fishel is a poor man who is, he's just trying to make ends meet day by day, trying to sustain his family, put a little food on the table. He's not an educated person. He's a hard worker, and he really has very little in his life. He has no big ambitions, right? He doesn't want to become anything great. He just wants to get through the day and have his family survive. But somewhere inside of him, a little dream starts boiling up. And that dream is that he wants to ride the train. Now, for so many years, he sees the people bringing tracks and building a train track in his town, in his little town in Russia. And he just starts thinking like, wow, maybe one day I'll be able to ride the train. But that's not such a reality for Fishel, who's barely able to put food on the table for his starving family. But every day that he works and he makes a few kopecks, he would save. Okay, and this went on for months and maybe even years. He had a small sack of coins. He would save, like he'd make X amount and he'd put a little bit away, put it under his bed. Nobody knew about this dream. He was embarrassed to even tell his wife about it, because how absurd is it? Why would he want to ride the train? So the day comes where he puts in a little kopeck and he sees there's no room in the sack. It is time. And he pulls out the sack and he hides it in his coat, and he goes down to the train station, right, the platform where he has been, kind of looking on his way to work, schlepping his water or whatever he was doing to make a few pennies, a few kopecks. And he's watching over so much time. So he knew exactly where to go. He gets there and he takes his bag of coins and he pours it on the desk in front of him, and the ticket master, the clerk, I don't know, what would we call the person that gives out the tickets? Ticket master. She doesn't say a word. She looks at Fishel. She looks at the coins, looks back up at Fishel. He's disheveled. He's all tattered and torn clothing. He looks like he needs a shower, and she's looking at this amount of money in front of her. And she just thinks to herself, okay. And she hands him the highest level, the first class ticket. It was a lot of money that he had collected. Now, Fishel, he was so excited about this dream, but he was so embarrassed to talk to anyone about it that he really didn't know what to do next. He didn't really take the time to learn, to understand about, the ways of real travel. So he just thought, I'll just be a bystander. I'll just see what everyone's doing. So he's standing at the side and he's taking it all in. And he sees a couple people dressed, very beautifully in fur collars, walking very carefully with their high heels onto one cart. Just a couple people going there. And then he sees, a few other people, maybe a few more going into the middle cart. And he's watching, taking it all in. And then lots of action. A whistle is blown. People are running and diving and dodging and trying so hard to get onto that third car. So Fishel says, well, that's where all the action is. I want to be there with everyone. So he runs and he pushes and he squeezes in just as the doors close. And then he finds himself a little wooden bench and he sits down. He tries to like be careful with the splinters on the bench. He sits down, takes a big breath. He looks around and he says, I made it. This is it. I'm living my dream. And he's taking in all the action around him. There's kids running around. There's a cow in the corner. There's chickens clucking and just there's so much going on in this cart. And he says, this is it. And the smells and the sounds and the noises and the cow mooing and all the action you could just imagine. But he sits back and he's trying to enjoy his ride. And then there's another whistle that's blown and the doors open and a man comes on, a very stern looking voice, sounding voice that says, tickets, please. And he just doesn't, what's going on? Oh, something, okay. Yay. I think it's okay. So, no, your computer is telling you lots of things. Like you have messages in your inbox. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, so this man comes on, tickets please, and he also notices what the people are doing. Like, what do we do now? So people are diving and ducking under the benches. People are hiding. So he says, well, this must be part of the fun. So he jumps down in the dirt, in the filth, under his wooden chair, and he's sticking out, and it sounds hysterical, right? You could just imagine Fischl just like, what's going on? And the ticket master comes over to him and taps him on the shoulder and says, tickets, please. And he's like scared because he's not quite sure, like, what is he doing? Is he doing the right thing? And he like raises his hand with his ticket, and the ticket master takes it. And he says, are you for real? What are you doing in the dirt, in the filth, under the seat? You could be sitting on plush velvet cushions and be fed drinks and food and reclining. Everyone else here has stolen their way. They don't even have a ticket. You have a first-class ticket. So that's the mashal. That's the story that explains a deeper concept. Okay, so now let's try to guess what the nimshal is. With a powerful way we could understand this parable that the Chofetz Chaim said. So does anyone want to take a stab at it? It could go in many different directions. But the main understanding of this parable is that we, the Jewish people, are just like Fischl. We think that we'll just fit in. We'll just be like everyone else. We'll just do what's popular. We'll just go with the flow. We'll just, it seems so exciting. Like that's where all the action is, right? That's where everything is. So we're going to be there. But I mean, we laughed at Fischl. It sounded absurd that he was where he was when he could have been somewhere totally different. It sounded so absurd, but how different are we, the Jewish people, to Fischl? We want to be where everything is, where everything's at. We want to be like everyone else. And the Jewish people say, okay, well, Hashem tells us, I have a different mission for you. And Hashem says, and this is written in the Torah numerous times, that you are going to be for me a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, a priestly, uplifted nation. You're going to be different. Don't try to be like everyone else. That's not who you are. So when I think about Fischl and I think about us, we all have this first-class ticket. And the first-class ticket is not only in this world. It's a ticket for this world and for the world to come. All the mitzvot that we've been speaking about, there's obviously reward. When you give, you feel good. When you do a mitzvah, you feel good. There's lots of reasons why we love embracing our Judaism. It feels good to do good. But the main reward will come in the next world. This is only as we said before, this is the prosdor, which is the hallway to the world to come. The world to come is the banquet hall. We're just in the hallway. We're just waiting to get in. This is not even the real deal. So we have to think about official. We have to like kind of reset our minds, our priorities. What are we doing here? We have this first class ticket. Which car do we want to be in? Okay, so now we're going to go to our topic. We've been talking about various mitzvot. Last week, Susan, you weren't here. I think it was a hard topic. I think it was a hard class. You weren't here either. So you could get the recording. Julie, did you send out the recording yet? Yeah? Okay. Okay, thank you. I know that it was hard because I got a few phone calls. And I'm just looking who's online over here, but no one that's here, but a few people in person and on the phone or by message told me that it was a very hard class for them, and that and there were two people that cried afterwards, like said like this was hard. It was hard to process because last week we spoke about some of the mitzvot that we say that we're going to do it in this world and the reward is great. It feels so good, but the ultimate reward is in the world to come. What were those mitzvot that we've been talking about? Visiting the sick, burying the dead, taking care of a bride, right? Those were the last few mitzvot that we tackled. Okay. So now we're going to go to the mitzvah that encompasses them all. The mitzvah that, I mean, it's a mitzvah. It is a positive mitzvah, but it's a mitzvah that it's so far reaching. It's not just what you think. And that mitzvah is Sadaka. So what is Sadaka? Give me a definition. Charity. Okay. What does that mean to you? Money?
Or time.
Money or time. Okay. Giving charity, giving a part of yourself. Okay. Let's actually take the word tzedakah and look at the source, the root of the word, the Hebrew word, tzedek. What does tzedek mean? Righteous. Okay. So it has nothing. Okay. So there's money, time. I mean, that's how we'll, easily translate what tzedakah is. Like tzedakah, putting money in a pushka, in a charity box, right? That's where we go. But it's so much more. It's righteous, being righteous. And really what all of these mitzvot are doing is making us like God. God wants us to be as godlike as we can in this world. So tzedakah is basically partnering with God. God's stamp, his signature, and this, let me just see if, Sue, you told me this, right? Susie, what is God's signature? I can't hear you. We want to hear it from you. She's coming in from Miami and from Florida.
It's emet. It's true.
Emet. God's stamp, his signature is emet. It's truth. God is righteous. God is the judge, and he also balances judgment and mercy, right? And that's really what we need to do to find our way. We spoke about how we could be like a little bit too much boundaried, or a little too, we call it chesed gone wrong, like we're giving so much that someone else is suffering. So to find that balance is that medium path, that middle path is to be godlike, to know the right balance. Okay, so let's talk about responsibility for a second, because when we speak about tzedakah, when we speak about giving our time and our money, right, there is this word that looms over us, responsibility. Okay, responsibility is a very big concept in Judaism. What's the opposite of responsibility?
Negligence.
Okay, so how about this? How about rights? Well, these are my rights. Does that talk to you as being like there's like a responsibility and then you have your rights?
Yeah.
Definitely. But it's interesting that in Judaism, there's a lot of talk in Judaism about your responsibility to others. The whole Torah is all about, right? If you could sum up the Torah in one line, it would be, don't do unto others what you wouldn't want to be done unto you, right? Like, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, right? Love your fellow as you love yourself. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. This really sums it all up, okay? So we have a lot of talk about responsibility as Jewish people. There's nothing in the Torah that speaks about your rights. There's nothing. We don't talk about that as much. It's not, I mean, obviously human beings, we have our rights, but we're going from a place of giving, of outward, of kindness, of being responsible for everyone else, not always protecting ourselves. That's the danger. The danger is that when we try so hard to protect ourselves, we're not going to be giving people. We're not going to be looking at, we're only going to be concerned with ourselves. And the whole purpose is to get out of ourselves. Okay, so it's like there's responsibility. So what happens when there's responsibilities out there and there's certain things that you see, you open your eyes, it's hard to not see that there's so much suffering all around you? What do? So unfortunately, the negative thing that happens is that we justify why we don't need to help. Okay, now the word justify, this is actually really cute. Friends of mine and Ali's that live in Israel, in Ramad, actually near the vegans, they have an organization called Justify. And the way it's spelled is just if I, like, because, right, isn't that great? So justify, we say, well, just like, I would have done it, but we have to check ourselves, because why are we doing what we're doing? So I have a great story for you. So talking about Justify. So Justify is the organization that runs trips to do social justice and all these incredible chesed opportunities. So the first trip that I did with Justify was to Thailand, and that was in 2017 or 18. And this was a trip that we brought 40 women from America, and we wanted to do chesed. We wanted to do kindness, like all of us. We were so excited and from such a good place. But as the organizer, I have to tell you guys what actually happened. So, and I'm embarrassed of this, but it was such an eye opener for me. So halfway through the trip, we were going to a school in a very poor part of Thailand, and we had gifts and we had activities and we had it all. We were so psyched. We had teachers that come with us, like, in our 40 ladies, there were many teachers, and we planned it out. We choreographed a dance for the kids. I mean, it was like, we were so excited to do goodness. So we get to the place, and the ladies didn't know this, but as the organizer, I knew what was going on. We get to the place and they're like, we need to talk to you. So there was a little bit of a holdup. No, yeah. Thai kids, very underprivileged, really had, there was no running water. I mean, just going to the bathroom in the school was quite the experience that I will never forget. Okay, it was a hole in the floor. Okay, so I mean, it was really sad, very sad conditions. And us, we just wanted to do chesed. So what happened was, we get there, they call me off the bus, we have a little problem. They don't have school today. And I'm thinking to myself, we have so much goodness to share. Like, I cannot crush these ladies. So I'm very embarrassed to say that what we did, we bussed the kids in their uniforms. The ladies weren't even supposed to know that there was no school that day, right? It was, right, you're shaking your head, but there was something that really bothered me about the whole experience. Like, we did our thing, I smiled through it, everyone gave their gifts, felt so good, took the pictures with these underprivileged, scrawny kids, patted themselves on the back, posted it on Facebook, we did our good. But I could not sleep that night, because what are we trying to do? Like, think about the word. Let's go back. Sadaka, righteousness. God is emet. There was nothing truthful about this experience. And I'm assuming that much of the kindness we see on social media with big celebrities and all of this stuff, right? Feeding who knows? We have to check ourselves. Where is it coming from? And what are we trying to do? So what Sadaka is, and righteousness, is being a partner with God. It is seriously being a partner with God. Now, let's talk about money for a minute, because that's usually what we think about when it comes to Sadaka. If we have X amount of money, right? That's right. That's another form of kindness. And okay, Sue just like raised the chicken soup and the challah initiative, right? And that's also something I want to build, that it's not all money. Sadaka is there's so many parts of it. And I believe, okay, yeah, I make the chicken soup, big deal. When you bring it to your next door neighbor who's recovering from COVID, you are doing the chesed. Like it's so multifaceted, right? There's so many parts to it. It's not money, it's just doing what's needed. There's a hole, let's fill it. Okay, so let's talk about money for a minute. If we really understood that God gives us everything that he gives us in order for us to partner with him. If we had anything extra, if we have extra funds at the end of paying our dues and paying our tuitions and whatever it is, and there's extra money, we are responsible to take care of that money because it's not ours. It belongs to God. So we're kind of like what's it called? Is your husband's a financial guy, right? What's his position? What's it called? You manage people's money, an advisor. So basically we are all advisors of God's money. It's really how it is. So I have a friend in Denver, Colorado. I'm going to say her name because this is the most beautiful thing. Ellen Hutt. She is such a beautiful soul. She taught me the most beautiful thing. And she's such talk about MS. Susie, you would love Ellen Hutt. You should look her up. You could get her Torah online. Ellen is she's a very it's very straightforward. Like, this is what I need. And if there's anything extra, it's not mine. It's superfluous. It's just above and beyond. So at the end of every single week, okay, so this is how Ellen lives her life. And she's done this for decades. She has a budget. She works off a budget, X amount for food, X amount for gas, X amount for, all the things that you might need. And she works with cash, right? Dave Ramsey, if anyone ever took Dave Ramsey's course, he's very into cash. Like, when you spend what you have, don't use cards. We did that for many years. So at the end of her week, whatever money is left in her envelope, she realizes so clearly it's not mine. I had everything I needed. So Erev Shabbat, she empties her envelope into the tzedakah box. Whatever is left over, she clearly didn't need it. She's fine. She's going into Shabbat. After Shabbat, she'll start her next week. And whatever is left over will go to charity. What do you guys think about that? How beautiful. Like, what a calculated way to live. This is what I need, right? By the way, tzedakah is not telling us to give more than we can. How much are we supposed to give? You guys all know this. But what I can't hear with the math. 10%. Okay. 1/10. Meiser, maaser, a tithe, right? To give 10% after, okay, and 10% is after taxes and after all of our big chunks of responsibility. Whatever is left, we give, okay? Well, there's actually different ways there's Sephardic and there's Ashkenazic, and there's different ways of thinking about it, because, and I actually, in preparation for this, I learned a lot of different opinions about what is actually Meiser. What is that 1/10? Is it like when the money comes in, you give 1/10, or is it after some of the bigger chunks? Okay, so there's different ways of thinking about it, but either way, if you're giving 1/10, you're doing great. Now, some people want to give more. How much? How much would be the max? 20%, 1/5, okay? And that is only if you really, really could. That's a question. Like, you're not supposed to be giving more than you could afford, right? You're not supposed to be coming forward. Take care of yourself. And we're going to actually talk about now who we take care of first. Okay, we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about the 8 levels, highest to lowest, of giving. And this is brought down by Maimonides. There are 8 levels of giving. Okay, so are we ready to go into this? So, okay, let's start. Okay, the first level, the highest level of giving is when you help someone get on their own feet. You give them a job, you take them in as a partner, you give them a gift or a loan, which you might never ask for that loan back, but you hold his his self-esteem intact, that he's not a charity case, and you just help him get on his own feet, right? You teach him how to fish. You're not giving him fish for the day, you teach him how to fish for the rest of his life. Okay, so this is the highest level of charity ever. Now, we probably have many organizations in our community that do just this, like vocational training, Jewish Family and Child Services. If someone needs a job, there are resources to help, to train them, to give them a skill, right? In the Jewish world, this is top-notch chesed, okay? Now, second level. So that's the top, we're going down, okay? And we'll try to find ourselves in the middle of all of it. And we'll try to stretch ourselves to a higher level. Okay, second level. Anyone want to guess? Should I just teach, or does anyone want to? Okay, maybe I'll just start, and if anyone, just jump in at any point. Second level, highest, is when both sides are anonymous. The giver donates through a third party. No one knows where the money is coming from. Like the receiver doesn't know where it's coming from, and the giver doesn't know where it's going to. So the problem here, and the thing we need to be wary of, is that we give to organizations that are trustworthy, and that we know that there's not like a crazy amount of overhead. Like if I'm giving charity, I don't want to give it to an organization that has a 60% overhead, right? I want it to go straight to the mouths of the poor person, right? I don't want there to be a lot of hands in between. So we need to do a little bit of research to make sure that that third party is trustworthy, okay? So that's the second level. Yes. So we spoke, very good. So we spoke about that last week, how the Chaver Kadisha, or which is called Chesed Shel Emet, it's such a pure form of kindness, but we're actually going to put that aside, because right now we're just talking about giving charity, giving money. That is a category in its own. It's the highest form of chesed, because it's the chesed of truth, because you can't ever get repaid. But it's similar, it's like very similar to these higher levels where you can't get repaid because it's so anonymous, no one knows you gave it, right? So that's why those are what God loves that. And we're going to get down to like having your name on a plaque. We're going to get there. There's room for that also. But the chesed shel emes, the anonymous giving, it's like a level of its own. It's really that's how God, I mean, that's what he loves. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so now here's a way of doing it: putting money in a pushka, like a pushka. Do you guys know what a pushka is? Is that Yiddish? I don't even know. Pushka, like a tzedakah box, right? Like I have, I don't know, a bunch of tzedakah boxes in our house. And every now and then you have spare change or a couple bucks or whatever it is, or before doing a mitzvah, there's an extra beautiful idea to give charity before doing a mitzvah. So many women, before lighting their Shabbat candles, will put money in a charity box, right? You do that? So the reason for this, you learned it from your daughter? That's so nice. Someone told me that Ali used to always do that, right? And it's funny because how many of us carry cash nowadays?
Yeah,
like it's right, it's hard. Even when people knock on your window when you're at a red light and people are collecting, I mean, I'm like, do you take Venmo? Like, you know, we're such a digital world, right? They really should get Venmo or get like one of these swipers or, you know, those little white chips, because it feels bad when we're like, I don't have anything on me, right? So we could work on that, and we could try to have some change. We actually have, my kids call it the Slurpee Fund. Okay. Yeah, you have with your empty change, and then you have what to give. Okay. Okay, good. So the nice part about putting money in a charity box is like this is totally anonymous on both ends. You're putting it in. When the charity box fills up, you give it to the organization. No, there's a middleman. So this is the highest level. They'll never know where it's coming from, and you never know where it's going. It's a high level. So it's pretty easy to do it if you just have a few charity boxes around your house and make it a thing. And the reason that's so beautiful, what you do before lighting the Shabbat candles to give some charity, the most beautiful part of it is this concept, mitzvah goreret mitzvah, that one mitzvah leads to another. And there are so many ways that we can do it. But when we wake up in the morning and we start our day and we wash Negelwasser and Netilat Yadayim and we kiss the mezuzah on our way out and we say a prayer or whatever we're doing, it's like we're like snowballing, like we're starting our day with so much mindfulness, right? It'll turn into a much different day than waking up, snooze, not bringing God into my life, not saying a prayer, not recognizing that God is, making me healthy, helping me walk, letting me see, giving me another day, gratitude. It's a whole different day. So that snowball effect in a very good way, one mitzvah leads to another. And I could give you ideas. We do some pretty cool things, like our own traditions. One of them is every time I make challah, which is pretty often, as you guys may have noticed, there's a little ball that we take symbolic and we burn it, right? So instead of burning it every week, I put it in a Ziploc bag in my freezer until it's like, whoo, big bag. And I burn it with the chametz. So that's one custom. I don't think so many people do it. You need freezer space. but when you're taking out your leavened bread and whatever else you're going to burn before Passover, you add this and it's like one mitzvah leads to another, right? So there are many, many ways of kind of being mindful about what can I do now? And we all know, maybe I'll share on our group chat, I'll share a beautiful video all about how one thing, like one act of goodness leads to another. And you see, like, it's just like a 2-minute video of like, someone that was his groceries were falling down and someone helped him. And then he felt so good that he went and he, gave one of his fruit to the lady that was sitting on the curb or whatever it is. And that person felt so good it's a boomerang effect. What comes around goes around. Okay, so let's go back to our levels. Okay, so the highest level, as we said, teaching someone a skill, getting them on their feet, giving them a loan, whatever it is. Second level, anonymous on both sides. Third level is when the giver knows where it's going, but the getter, the receiver, doesn't know where it's coming from. Okay, this is called matan beseter. Seter means in privacy. It's hidden. You're giving and no one knows, right? Well, one side knows, right? The person who's getting it doesn't know. So a way of doing this is sliding an envelope under someone's door, right? The person that's receiving it is just imagine a father sitting at home, he's out of work, he doesn't know how he's going to pay his mortgage, and an envelope is slid under his door. Imagine how you've just given him life. You have literally revived him. And he doesn't have to walk in the streets embarrassed of, oh my gosh, that's the one that probably gave it to me, because he has no idea. It's beseter, it's hidden. So that's third level. The fourth level, and this one is very interesting, okay, the way that I learned this. The fourth one is when the receiver knows who it's coming from, but the giver doesn't know. And the way that this is brought down, so imagine 100 years ago in the marketplace, okay, in Europe, there is a wealthy man that walks the streets, and on his back, he has a sign that says, help yourself. If you need money, help yourself. And his bag is open and there's money inside. And he would not look, he would not turn around when someone would come and take. So that way, so this is the example that was brought down from a long time ago. How could we, that doesn't happen in today's day and age. So how could we understand it, or how could we do this fourth level in today's day and age? That the receiver knows who it's coming from, but the giver doesn't know where it's going to. How would you? Oh, that's so nice. So, and I never know unless I get like some beautiful stories. I love it, Doris. I would love that. I love that. I love hearing the stories. Like your mother shared an amazing story, and like I tell the story. Dana's mom she received a challah and soup from you, right? And she, if I got it right, she was walking down the hallway and she saw someone that was sick, needed it more than her. So she took it and she gave it to her. So yeah, so I loved, I don't know who that person is, right? it says l'chaim on it. So I guess they know where it's coming from, but I will never know, so that's, yeah, love that. Thank you, Judy. Okay. Now fifth level. Okay, so we're going down. We're going down in like, in this mitzvah. The fifth level is when both sides know. Both sides know. Imagine someone knocking on someone's door. Please, can you give me, money? Or how about this? Someone making an appointment to speak with you. I'd like to meet with you, and that this person is probably going to be asking. So the way that the Maimonides teaches is that if because there's so much embarrassment and shame about not having what you need. If you need to ask for charity, I mean, that is a tremendous amount of shame. It is so, so hard. So our sages and Maimonides says that what you should do in that fifth level, where you're both going to know who it is and who's coming and who's receiving, to give before he asks. Okay, meaning chances are he's going to be asking. So when I was listening to a class on this, someone said, well, that's so rude. Like, imagine like someone's coming to you and he's so uncomfortable and you're going to say, you must need some money. Like that might embarrass him even more, right? Like to know that he must know that this. So how about just like jumping the gun and giving him a gift? I have this extra, amount. And I don't know if you could use it or your family or your community, but here, will you take this and make sure it goes to the proper place? Like giving a gift before he even asks. So that's fifth level. So it's pretty low because there's still so much face time and shame involved. So I just want to take a break from these 8 levels to tell you about one of my most amazing role models, Lori Polanek. Okay, everyone here knows about Lori Polanek. She's the founding director of Momentum. To this JWRP, that's how it started. Now it's Momentum, yes. And Lori, oh my gosh, she's so fabulous. She was a little Rebbitzin like me. Like she was like in the village shul in Toronto, like trying to help people with their Judaism. And all of a sudden, like years passed, and now she's fundraising millions of dollars. She says to me, Eve, I never thought I would do this. I never saw myself as a fundraiser. She said, but this is her little joke. She says, but I thought to myself, the first 3 letters are F-U-N. So, I mean, how bad could it be? Right? I mean, so she said, well, it was bad. Right. But here is the massive like switch that she helped me see, because I have never wanted to ask a person for a cent. It's so embarrassing. Like I just felt like that is the worst thing. I will never fundraise a cent. And Lori explained to me, Eve, you are giving people the opportunity to give, to be a part of something that is so huge. It's this switch in your mind. It's not like, woe is me, I have to ask you for something. No, I have the greatest thing ever in this world and in the next world. Do you want to be a part of it? Do you want in on the merit of changing thousands and thousands of lives? Do you want to be a part of the merit of changing the Jewish world? Like, do you want in? Because I'm not going to ask just anyone. Like, this is huge. So when you really believe in your product, when you really believe in what you're selling, right? Lori always said, before Lori got into being a Rebbitzin, what? She was in marketing. She was working for Kraft. And she said, like, now she really believes in what she's selling. Like, she's selling the Jewish world, the Jewish people. Like, it's such a great product. How can we feel embarrassed to ask for Hashem or for the Jewish people? Okay, so now let's go to level 6. Level 6 is giving someone after they ask. Pretty simple, right? Someone asks, you pull out your wallet, you give a few bills, okay? Level 7 is giving less than he asks, okay? Level 8 is giving, but with a frown. Okay, so now let's take a pause. Let's talk this through. Giving is hard. I guess it's harder for different people. Like some people are very attached to the security of money, or there's lots of emotions that come around giving, right? Am I wrong? It's not only me. It's hard. Sometimes you feel like this is your security. everything is in this thing, in this amount, in this dream, whatever it is. But just as fast as money comes, money could go. Okay. And the understanding that it's not actually yours. It was never yours to begin with. Hashem gives and Hashem takes. And Hashem gives in order for you to be his partner. We are partners with God in such a holy mission of tikkun olam, of fixing the world, of making sure our brethren have what they need. There's a story, I don't know if I'll remember all the details, but it was just, in today's day and age, a wedding, right, where, the parents had various children, and one sibling came with his family, like dressed to the hilt. Everyone looked so good. And the father, and he says to his parents, I did this for your honor. Like, here, look at my family. Like, they're all like so put together and everyone is looking so great. And the father said, really? If it was for my honor, why didn't you make sure that your sibling and his family were also put together and taken care of? Right? It really, really brings down to like, why are we doing this? Right? What is it all about? Okay. Yes. Okay. 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 So let's talk about this right now. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. Judy brought up a really, really good question. Giving anonymously is such a high level, but we're not on such a high level. So if we are, well, we're not there. So we need names on buildings. We need that because when we spoke about jealousy weeks ago, I said the one reason, the one good thing about jealousy, such an evil trait, but the good part about jealousy is that it could push you to do more. Kinat sofrim tarbe chochma. If someone is wiser than you, more giving than you, someone is excelling in a good way, it might push us to want to become more. So when we see a name on a building or a plaque or what we want to be more. We want to be more. It pushes us. It's a good thing. It doesn't take away from their honor. And more, another layer to it is that there is a lot of merit. Merit. We believe, here, Bruce is with us all the time. He's no longer here in this world. How much merit does he get every time people come together and learn? Right? His name is being called upon. His merit is increasing. He is so high in Shemayim through our merit. So we do have this concept of putting a name to it for the merit of that person. So yes. Yeah.
For learning everyday merit here in this room, which is so beautiful. Put the money in. And then the store.
Right. Right. So that's where it lands. It's in his honor. So right. Right. Well, so this is not his charity, right? This is his merit. So I don't know who it was that anonymously donated this lounge. I don't know who that is. So that person has her own merit. But on another level, as we said, once you leave this world, you cannot give charity. You cannot do any mitzvah, right? It's only in this 120 years, this prosdor, this hallway to the next world that we do all of our mitzvah. We get all of the merit that we can, and then we live off of it in the world to come, right? So there's two parts of it. There's the donor, there's the charity, right? They did it anonymously, highest level. And in the merit, so that's also highest level for the soul is to be the recipient of the merit. So that's why we have names on plaques and pillars. It's for a good cause. First of all, we're not all there. I think it's still a higher level to do something anonymously, but there's so many reasons to be called upon that thank you for being this donor. It's so worthy. Okay. Does that answer your question, Judy? It's a really good question. It's discussed a lot and it's good. It's good. And there's still always a higher level to aspire to. Yeah. Mm, mm, right. Mm, so beautiful. So I want to share a story. Yeah, one more question.
Yeah, this troubled me. a very long time. Not so good.
Mm.
They cheat, they this, they
Right.
don't treat people right, a lot of bad things.
That's a good question. Are you allowed to take dirty money? Just like there's kosher food, we have kosher money. You are 100% right. You are 100% right. I personally know of an institution that decided not to take millions of
Workers
dollars
go under.
because it was dirty money.
Okay,
So
well, then-
that is a question for someone with bigger shoulders. I don't know what the answer is.
I asked
Survey.
somebody at one point, about
Uh,
yeah. The truth is that the money
for good.
good way.
Mm,
And so if you focus on the fact that there is good coming out of it. And leave
Totally.
the rest of it.
It doesn't take away the bad, but it's its
But the
own
bad
good.
part of it-
Right, right. 100%.
But the
Mm.
bad is the bad is being done to Jewish people and so forth.
I think
So
that
it's
these are
not very
complex.
simple to me.
And it's not simple. It's not simple to anyone. But so the good part is, the good thing is we're not the judge. We don't need to make those decisions. Okay, I have such a great story. Okay. This is a story that I share when I lead women on my Poland trip. And we go in Krakow, we're outside this old cemetery, right outside the synagogue, the ancient synagogue there in Krakow. And we show that there is this little grave, this little, like it barely has a stone. It has a piece of tin on it. Okay, not fancy. You have big Rebbeim with fancy gravestones, and just some of them have like a whole house where you come in, and you know what I'm talking about? Like some of them have like big places or benches, and they're so nicely done. This is on the outskirt of the cemetery with a little tin, like it's nothing. It's just it looks like, who was this guy? So the story is as follows. This is a Shlomo Carlebach story. He tells it. Have you ever heard a story from Shlomo Carlebach? When it's like a nigun. It's like, yeah. Like he says it in a, I won't do that for you guys. But here is the story. There was a man in Krakow. He was known as Yossele the Miser. Yossele the Miser. He was a very well-to-do man. Everyone knew he was so wealthy. He was so successful in his business. And people would come and knock on his door all the time and ask him, please help me and my family. I can't feed them. I'm marrying off a daughter. I can't, we're not going to be able to make the wedding. Please, tears. And he would say, come in and tell me about what's your situation. He would ask a lot of questions. And then he would kick the person out. Get out of here. Get out of here. So mean. Throw them out in the snow. And people hated him. He was known as Yossele the Miser. And his whole life, he was so successful and he never gave a cent. He was a miser through and through. And he passed away. And the Chaver Kadisha, the burial society, they didn't even want to bury him. They said, such an evil man. He never gave a cent to charity. He wasn't part of this community. Why should we bury him? They left his body for days. They didn't even bury him. And finally, someone came and they took the body. They didn't know what to do with him. and they buried him on the outskirt of the cemetery. And then Thursday night of that week comes, and the rabbi of Krakow gets a knock on his door. Someone says, I need money. I can't provide. I can't make Shabbat. I have nothing. And he says, okay, well, I'll try to give you, like, I'll give you a little bit. And another knock, someone else, I can't do it. I need help. Please help me. So he gives, and the whole night people are coming and asking for money. He says, what is going on? So eventually, after they realize, did you all figure out what happened? Yossele the miser was taking everyone into his house and saying, give me all the details. How many children do you have? How big is your debt? What needs to be done? Your house is leaking? Taking all the details, and then, as if something possessed him, something took over his emotions, get out of here. I'm not giving you a cent, not a cent. Throws him out into the snow. And this happened for years. And everything was fine in the community. The rabbi said, what is going on? When Yossele passed away, that's when he realized Yossele was taking care of all these families. He just wanted to do it in complete privacy. And he wanted to become like a monk. He wanted to make himself out to be, he didn't want any honor. He wanted it to be such a high level of, it wasn't the highest level because he knew he was who he was giving to. It wasn't through a third party, but that was his level of there would be no embarrassment. He would give, it would be secretive. It would be under their envelope, under their doorstep for years and years and years. So imagine how the community felt. They spoke badly about him. They pulled him apart. They wouldn't even bury him. They didn't want nothing to do with this guy. And imagine how everybody felt. So what are you guys thinking about this story?
How did they find out?
It was so clear. It was so clear how so many people were coming to the rabbi saying, for years and years, all my needs were provided. A check or, some cash or whatever it was, an envelope would come under my door every Thursday night. And then they started putting the pieces together. It was all anonymous, so they didn't realize that it was Yossele the miser. But eventually the rabbi would say, did you go to Yossele? Did you give him all your details? And it was so clear that he was the one that was single-handedly taking care of the community. He just wanted no honor, no recognition. Okay, so what are you guys feeling? You feeling upset with the people? What happens to the people that, why did he have to be so mean, right?
Eve,
Crazy, yes. Anna.
can I just say hi, everybody?
Hi,
I was in Krakow.
Louder.
I was actually at that shul that you're talking about.
Krakow.
When we were praying and we took out the Sidurim. All the Sidurim were donated by the Lockman family from Chicago. And
Oh, wow.
know them, Helene and I forgot his name, but Al Lockman was from the same hometown from Poland as my father. So it was
Wow.
very, very emotional. Anyway, I thought I would share that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Okay. So what are you guys feeling about this story? I don't know. I'll have to Yeah.
Such an extreme.
Mm. Are you guys able to hear? You able to hear Doris? So
No.
Doris is saying every human being has a need to have a shem tov, a good name. Why would he go to such an extreme to make himself so hated? So that's
good.
I don't know the answer, but it could be like everyone has a thing, right? It could be that his nakuda, his point of work was to get rid of all honor. Maybe he was a hungry, an honor-seeking person, and this is how he undid it. This was his clearly his work. His work, maybe he was a very greedy person by nature. So he needed to work extra hard to overcompensate. I don't know. But yes.
I think it's an illustration of how people are very quick to judge.
Mm.
You don't always have all the facts.
Totally, totally. So there's so much judgment going on. But this is a case where, when we go back to like our first talk about judgment, right? He was known as a miser. Our responsibility when we judge is we don't need to give the benefit of the doubt for someone that is known to be a wicked person. So I don't even think the people were doing anything wrong. It was well known for decades that this guy was such a greedy, good for nothing. He was living in his luxury and not giving anything. So I don't have an answer, but it's just, well, because maybe people just had hope, or there's like they turned over every rock, and this was, clearly, who knows, but I think that the seed of it, okay, and it's hard to understand this, but our sages sometimes tell us better to suffer in this world than to suffer in the next world. And he, in a way, he did his suffering in this world. He was hated, he was spit at, stones were thrown at his home. He went through all his suffering. He was obviously also on such a high level. He separated from all honor, from all dignity, from all the, the natural, what did you say, a shame tov. Like, we all have this need to have a good reputation, right? He let that all go. So clearly he was on such a high level. And so the interesting part is they didn't change his grave side. For decades and decades, you go there now and you see this little tin, like, it's so simple. It's still on the outskirt of the cemetery. They didn't make it into a big shrine because that was who he was. Humble and modest. Hashem honored him, you're saying?
No, keeping the graveside.
Yeah, that's exactly how he wanted it. So true. And it's a lesson that we tell over the story all the time, right? For 100 years. Unbelievable. Okay. So I know that the time is almost out. When we let go of something in the physical world, when we give up something physically, we are left with less, right? You have X amount, take out a piece, you're left with less, right? So we think, in our limited understanding, that when we have X amount of money or time and we give some away, we're left with less. So we have to understand that in the world of mitzvot, in the world of this world and the next world and merit and all of this that we couldn't even understand, merit, couldn't understand what payment will be like. I hear God pays really well, by the way. So someone actually, Eliza Polstein, she said, could you teach a class for me, for my ladies? She's like, I just feel so bad. I can't pay you anything. I'm like, that's okay. I said to her, I'm like, I hear God pays really well in the next world. I'm in, like, there's so much that we could do. We don't need the payment in this world. There's a whole other world of payment. So we have to understand that in this scope of understanding, it's not like the physical world. When we take something out, we're actually accessing more. We're accessing the infinite. Think about the example used. We take a portion of challah dough, we burn it, we get rid of it. Significant, reminds us of the temple, right? Mitzvah. We're doing a mitzvah, and now we have less dough, but it's not less. It's holy dough. We've accessed something infinite. We've touched another realm. It's the same with our money. We have X amount, we take some away, we do a mitzvah that will change our forevermore. Yes. Okay. I love that. Definitely. Oh, I love that analogy of a candle. Like, you could light so many candles, and I love that. Right. There's so much more. Right. I love that. Okay, let me read you a quote. This is Chazal. Our sages tell us that when someone gives charity, and at the end of their life, they go up to heaven, the charity, so to speak, or the merit will run ahead of you, announcing your presence. Like, just imagine this analogy. It's an analogy, right? Charity doesn't run, but you're coming up to heaven, And all your deeds, your good deeds, the good things that you did, it's infinite, as we said. It's accessing a whole other world. It's running ahead of you. Hear ye, hear ye. This is what she did with her life, right? So that's very promising. Yes? Oh, yeah, right? Okay, I have a question. Question to end today. What is the best way of giving? We could give a lot in small quantities, or we could give a lot in one lump sum. Discuss. What do you guys think? Okay, anyone disagree?
Can't hear.
Okay, you heard the question? You guys heard the question? Either you have $1,000. You could give $1,000 to one organization and make a huge impact, or you could give $1,000 bills to 1,000 organizations. I'm, obviously I'm exaggerating, but.
Isn't it give as you see fit?
Okay, preempt it. Okay.
So this, we're talking about two different.
Okay, yeah. So what Judy is saying, that there's like the regular places that you're committing yourself to giving, and then there's there's a need, there's a, there's things come up. Mm. Right. So do both. Okay, that's what we're hearing. Like there's like the organizations that you want to support, and then there's the things that come up, and there's spontaneous, like you just feel like I'm going to give, even though I don't know what's going to be with me. I don't know if I'll be able to support myself. Right. There's all the insecurity of it, but the promise is that if you take care of God's children, God is going to take care of you. Right. God is, this is not happening in a vacuum. God is watching every move. Everything is documented above. You're getting merit for for this world, for the next world. It feels good to be a giver, right? There's all that good stuff. So many. Right. So actually, we're not going to have time to finish this today, but there's also, where does charity begin? Right? Where do you give? There's a great organization in Israel. There's poor people in your own community. Where does it begin? So we say at home, right? We always say that, but where does it, what are those circles? There's like, what do we call it? Like the concentric circles all around us. So we have to understand where our obligation truly lies, right? Actually, it really starts with your family. The people closest to you are the people that you're most responsible for. If your parent is needing assistance, that is your top priority. If your child is needing assistance, that is also considered charity at the highest level. You're laughing. So I always, when my teenage kids ask me for things every day, I say, do you want it or do you need it? Right? Because they need everything. I'm like, really? Do you really, really need a new iPad? Really? Okay. So to be continued. So I guess I'm going to put the question out to you. We'll leave it with that question. What is better? Okay, maybe I'll just give you the answer now so we don't forget. Do you want to say? Yes. So that's what Ramban Maimonides teaches us, that really the giving, the flexing of our muscle to give again and again and again, it's not so much for the recipient, it's for you, right? Here's the quote. We'll end with this quote. The simple act of giving a small symbolic amount does more for you than the person that is collecting. It's for you to be more godlike. It's for you. When you give and you give and you give and you give till it hurts sometimes, right? Sometimes you're not sure, but there's a pressing need. You're the one that's benefiting. 100%. For sure, for sure, for sure.
Get away from something.
100%. Yeah.
So it's
Last week we spoke about the topic, the main topic was sensitivity, right? What else did we speak about? Well, we framed it with sensitivity. We read that beautiful story of your mother, sensitivity. So it's very hard for us to change our way of thought. We go out in the world and there's slogans. I mean, literally, you ever read people's t-shirts? There's the most outrageous things like talk to the hands. Can you see? I don't care. Like what are some good slogans? I actually saw a really rude one. So rude, so rude. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I was embarrassed. It said, what are you looking at? Okay. But it wasn't over here. It was over here. It was a man's pair of sweatpants. I was just like, really? Like, it's crazy. But think about what we see out there. Like, get out of my way. This is what the world is telling us. Do I look like I care? Right? Like people are like broadcasting these messages, and we have to work very hard to say, I care. I care. I'm seeing you. You're a human being. You were created in the image of God. There's something that you're lacking. What can I do to help you? Whether it's money or time or being there for another person, that is what it is all about. That's what the human experience is supposed to be all about. Really, really being there for another person. So we'll end there. And I just want to tell you that whoever missed, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, Regina, Regina, that lovely lady that started coming recently. I hope she's going to listen to this. Hannah's cousin. Hannah, your cousin. Yeah.
Yeah, she just loves, she's not there today.
She's not here today, but I think she's traveling soon. So we
She's
love her.
leaving. She's
traveling for a little bit. So she'll be back. We're going to wait till she comes back, but she had a great idea to have a class trip. So I'm all about this. I'm all onto this. And a field trip. And I actually found this. This is so beautiful. It's the Gemach Central in Chicago. I mean, there's so many organizations, and Julianne Sclaver, who's also a part of our learning, she comes on Shabbat. Julianne works for Jewish Federation, and she's going to help put this field trip together. And we're going to go see and speak to the people that are running all of these organizations for gemachs, wheelchairs, and ramps and gates for babies and inflatable beds and tables and chairs. And literally, I went once when I got here, I went to look at this place and I was blown away. So they like the Chesed, I don't know what the Chicago Chesed Fund. So whatever people need, and it's so beautiful. I think we should understand what type of a gorgeous Jewish community we are a part of. We are a part of this community. And if ever, God forbid, any of us was in need, we would be okay, because this is what being a Jew is all about, right? And we'll end with this, okay? Lesson for today. Learn these words. Kol Yisrael arevim ze lazeh. All of Israel are responsible for one another. We are all one, and we are all responsible for one another. That's where it starts, and that's where it ends. So tzedakah, chesed, all of these beautiful things, whether it's burying the dead, taking care of a bride, all of these things that we spoke about, we're all one. We're one body, one soul. If one part of our body is not functioning, we all feel it. That's how we should feel. So we will end here. So good to see you guys. Happy 2022.
Thank you.
We'll see you on Shabbat. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
So is the obligation.
Call you, Eve.